Alrighty. Great games at your table. I'm Jonathan Albin, and this is Game Master Soapbox. And today we're going to talk about controlling the tempo in your sessions. And one of the greatest ways to do this is to establish your baseline, build towards a conclusion, and having a great crescendo, earth-shattering, scary situations, and suddenly it's over. We've won. Victory. But how do you actually accomplish this in a role-playing game? We're going to talk today about some of the ways to do this and what we can do to make your sessions make sense and also drive the excitement of your players towards every session's ending. But before we do that, make sure you go down below and click all the buttons so that the algorithm knows that you're part of our audience, and let's get started.
Absorbing damage is the name of the game. From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball of flame. Our strength in numbers is a roll of the dice.
Alrighty, so when we are speaking about creating a rising action in the scene, what we are referring to is building the action towards a conclusion, whether obvious or foreordained, or just simply by driving the level of excitement up a little bit over the period of your game. But when we talk about the rising action, we're talking about how do we build the scene so that it will feel natural, still scary, but feel natural along the process, so that the players don't lose heart. This is I will admit that the concept of a rising action is itself a somewhat of an all or nothing build, and so as we start, we're gonna create a sense of urgency, and then building towards a level of urgency that becomes almost untenable. Let's go. So the first thing you have to do is establish baseline. And baseline is merely a thematic even place. And even if you've been building week over week towards your conclusion and seeming to ratchet radically upward each time, the idea here is that you want to kind of lull the players into a sense of uniformity, a sense of calm. In, for example, Dracula, as the adventurers are getting closer and closer to the castle, there is a definite sense of foreboding, but they are first establishing the baseline. They're getting used to each other's company. They're getting used to the level of the threats that have been coming at them, and they seem to be getting a handle on the tension level already in the session. Then you want to sort of level a bit of danger on them by giving them a sense of foreboding, perhaps noticing that they have been rolling really good recently and hinting that there might be something worse still coming. And why are you still here? You should not be here. There we go. This sense of foreboding, just like the House of Loroth, it could be right around the next corner. You really don't know, but you give them the sense that things may not be going as they should, that maybe they've been getting a little too lucky. And even if this is only verbal, you can really manipulate, and I don't mean that in a negative way, you can really guide your consumer, your player in the game to feel this way simply by the way you state things. And leaving as many options as possible open on the field actually adds to this tension. I've said before that it's as much the playing of the spaces as it is playing the notes on the page. So the idea is you are leaving a question, or actually leaving a floating question mark, if you will, in the air each time you make a statement during the session. Now, one of the ways you can do this very effectively is to remind them of the bad points that they've been in before, the places where they nearly were destroyed earlier, or where they lost evidence, or perhaps did not grab a hold of something they might have been able to, and just draw their memory back to those places where things were not going so well, because that builds in their minds that they might be headed in such a place again. At the same time, you want to draw out some of the brightness, especially if you were doing a long tail game and you're setting up for the first hour or so where the session is going. Make sure you give them an opportunity to think about the good things and the good times that they've had, and how we might be headed there again with yet another success behind us, and to give them the idea that what they are affecting, or what they are attempting to do, is going to put this to an end once and for all, as the saying would go. Generally, this kind of uniform pattern can be settled. You've used a few teasers on either side, reminding them of their dangers and yet showing them how close they are to success. And then have a sudden break in the action. A wheel on the wagon breaks. A horse stumbles. Flash of rare lightning strikes someplace nearby. Anything that's going to jostle their create a sense of unease that just kind of lingers for a moment. And savor this. Actually hold your reaction to it and observe your players, because they will be the ones who start to doubt themselves. And this is really kind of critical in building tension. They have to see that their perceived walls of protection may not hold. So as they start to question or doubt or wonder about the things that are about to happen, give a sudden nod to the promise. Oh, that flash of lightning was just happenstance. There was nothing ominous about it. That bird just happened to be in that tree. It flapped away innocuously. It really wasn't anything very important. The idea is that you are getting them used to catching their breath with each action by giving them something that feels dangerous and yet isn't. You're giving them that false sense of security, because you need them to have that comfort pad in place when the hammer really drops. And this sudden drop should be definite. Like, for example, in the previous example, as we were talking about, say, a certain call from a bird, and all the attention is played on that tree, and then they go, oh, it's just a bird. And then at that very instant, the tree explodes into shards and splinters for no reason. It's like, what was that? Why did that happen? This recalling of the dangers that they face provide them with a very solid anchor for dread, because now there's something happening and they didn't control it and they don't know how. Next, the crescendo is really important. Now, these are volatile, so that when you are doing a rising action like this, you're going to be building up, and there are opportunities to throw the players off of the scent, so to speak. But as you run later in your session, the more dangerous this becomes. Now, theoretically, it could build all the way to a crescendo, and then you hold them there with a cliffhanger. But if you do this too often, they no longer they will no longer hold its luster, and there will be no longer a reason for the players to want to build towards a crescendo. So instead, you need to be able to do what's called the payoff. And so this nuanced ability, you can play this trick, so to speak, once, maybe twice in a session, but that will be the extent of it, and then not every session. But when you are building the crescendo, it's very important to realize that you will miss your timing, so to speak, if you press it too long or try one more time to tease them with it. Wow, I left a mullion here all the way through. Thanks. The reality is that memory is malleable, and your players in the session may feel what you're exactly attempting to feel at some point, but it may not be, if your timing is slightly off or you try that extra time or whatever, the players may not feel like it was as tension-filled as it might have been. But realize that you, as a storyteller, dealing with the players over a longer time, can definitely build back in some of the tension that was there by recalling those moments of heightened nervousness and downplaying those moments when things kind of went sideways. Role-playing is not it's a performance art. You're, of course, playing to the audience and you're playing to the player, but it's also a matter of playing into the longer term. If your game sessions are one-shots, you have perhaps less likelihood of this, but in a long-term campaign, you certainly can redefine the session's pressures after the fact by creative retelling of the story. So what I'm really trying to say is that you definitely want to build toward crescendos. You want to build your action towards this moment of excitement, and sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you'll get exactly what you want, and so other times you won't. The real key here is practice, practice, practice. You'll get better with your sessions over time by simply giving it a shot every once in a while. So try this and let me know how it goes in your game session. Did your players really get a kick out of it, or was it kind of hit or miss? The reality is that every game master has their own style, and my recommendations really will help you to build the pressure into the game mechanism so that you can get the bang out of the buck that you're looking for. I'm Jonathan Albin. This has been Nikos RPG, and remember, as my grandfather would always say, go play.